Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm calling this meeting of the Public Safety Communications Task Force to order. It's 9:02 on October 20, 2023, and I'm Barbara Neal. As a reminder, there's Jim. Good morning, Jim. As a reminder, the meeting is being recorded and the recording will be posted on the task force webpage following the meeting. So let's start with a roll call of task force members. I can see most everybody, it looks like. So good morning, Commissioner
we
Morrison.
have to do it by voice, I've
Oh.
been told.
Okay, Commissioner Morrison, are you here?
Roger that, I'm here.
Paul White.
Here.
Michael Wright.
I am here.
Mike Dungis. So I can see Mike on the screen, and
it looks like he just logged back in with a different.
Yeah, sorry, I got booted somehow when you guys started the recording. I don't know if they were correlated, but as soon as you started the recording, I got booted. So I'm back.
Okay, good morning, Mike. Ron Kumitz.
I am here.
Good morning. And Jim Mack.
I'm here.
Okay, great. So, and also joining us is Callie Audette for our administrative support. Let's see. Members of the public that are with us, let me call your name or your phone number, and I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves and any affiliation you care to share with us. So Stephen, Stephen Whitaker, I believe this is you, ending in 6687, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Non-affiliated.
Good morning, Stephen. Yeah, good morning. Derek.
Good morning, Derek Wieczorek with Altaris Technology Partners, non-affiliated.
Good morning, Derek. Philip Sisk.
Hey, good morning. Phil Sisk with Mission Critical Partners.
Morning. And Richard Townend.
Good morning, Richard Townend with Altaris Technology Partners.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Any other member of the public wants to introduce themselves? I see Lori Haskins has just joined us. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Jeff Burnham, Springfield Police.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. All right. Anyone else from the public that I may have missed? Okay, great. So moving on to approval of the agenda. So the agenda was distributed to task force members earlier this week, I believe, and it is also available on our website. Do task force members have any changes to the agenda? Nope.
Well,
I see.
I think that I would like to move new business to just after pilot project considerations and goal discussions before we potentially move to executive session.
Okay. Anybody else have any proposed changes? All right. So there's a motion then to move new business to just after pilot projects and goals. I should have said, is there a motion? Okay. Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the agenda change, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye or both. All right.
Aye.
I see all task force member hands are up except, oh, there's Michael. Okay, including Michael Wright. The agenda has been amended. So now the trick is remembering that we made that move. So I'm sure I'll help with that memory care. All right. So approval of the minutes. So there are two sets of minutes ready for approval. I'm going to take them one at a time because I know I was absent for one meeting and I think maybe others were. So let's cover them separately. So the minutes were distributed to task force members and are also available on our webpage. Are there any corrections to the to the minutes rather, from the regular meeting number 10 on October 12th, 2023. Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes as presented of regular meeting number 10 dated October 12th, 2023.
Second. Paul.
Paul, second, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, I'm going to abstain from this vote because I wasn't there and haven't had a chance to review the recording. But all in favor of approving the minutes from October 12th, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, I see Ron, Paul, Jen, Jim, and Michael all have their hands up, and I will abstain. All set, Callie?
Then, this is me as well. Sorry, Mike Dunges.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry, I
Both
missed you. Yes.
Mikes.
Both Mikes have voted in favor. Okay. So let's move on now to the meeting minutes from the special meeting on October 17th. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Madam Chair, I'm going to move that we delay approval of those. I've not had an opportunity to read them. So if we could move those to our next regular meeting, that would be preferable to me.
Is there a second on that motion?
Sure, if it's a motion, I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of moving the approval of this October 17th special meeting minutes to the next regular meeting, raise your hand and or say aye. Alrighty, looks like we have everyone in favor. Yep, okay. All right, we will move those to the next regular meeting. Okay, that brings us to public comment. How many, if you would like to make a public comment, could you raise your hand or otherwise indicate so we know how many people we're expecting?
Me.
Okay, Stephen. I don't see any other hands raised at this point, so 5 minutes, Commissioner? Okay, let's go with 5 minutes, Stephen. The floor
I
is
can
yours.
probably come in under that, if history is indicative. I want to clarify a couple things, and especially in light of y'all's beginning to consider SME proposals and a pilot project, is that the RFP was clearly deficient in its scope and specificity. And that, I believe, causes reluctance by potential vendors to put necessary specificity into their proposals. And I think that we need to, the reason that LTE is referenced in the legislation is because it has become an essential tool for public safety first responders. So the general phrase in the legislation of public safety communications includes both LMR and LTE, yet we have neglected to properly emphasize the LTE integration in our RFP scope of work. We should not be sending first responders into a burning building without a LTE-based transponder so that we can find them if they become unconscious. That's only one of many examples related to drone video, fire ground management software, vehicle location, etc. Public safety going forward absolutely relies on LTE, and yet further confusion was added in the response to questions that were, the task force answered a question saying we're not asking for solutions to the LTE shortfalls, gaps. I think that's an error, and I think that needs to be clearly addressed by the task force, that we are planning both LMR and LTE concurrently, because by doing it concurrently, the more exacting engineering discipline of LTE, where the cells need to hand off to each other through a core switch, will drive the location of antennas. And then LMR antennas, more forgiving, will be on every 6th or 10th or whatever of those co-located poles or towers. So that's a fundamental that needs to be understood, and that needs to be understood in light of the pilot projects as well, because we don't have any other solution for LTE. The 2 proposals by the administration in the last 2 years have been zeroed out. They were basically multi-million-dollar giveaways to the private sector. And here's an opportunity for public safety authorities to implement LTE, to protect their first responders, to better manage their emergency responses, and to generate potential revenue, a share of the roaming revenues. So these are key points that need to be the baseline of how you go about interviewing SME candidates and focusing their attention. What can we get done, you know, in a pilot project that will prove out the economics of this strategy and will prove to the governor that this is his best chance of getting LTE, which he sorely wants, better coverage for tourists and the ability to call 911, et cetera. So I guess that's the most important point. If I go on, I could elaborate or respond to questions at a future meeting, but I'd ask you to dwell on that and focus on getting a pilot project approved by the end of the year, so that this thing doesn't go sideways, or the 11 million doesn't get reappropriated to other competing priorities of some of the legislators. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, I didn't see any other hands, but I'll give one more opportunity for any member of the public to comment. Okay. Hearing nothing, let's move on to the next agenda item, which I'm going to toss right back to you, Commissioner. The status of the Independent Legal Counsel RFP.
So this, the status is that is posted for to receive potential bids. It was posted on Monday of this week. Questions are due. God, I don't have it in front of me, but questions were due 2 weeks hence, so another week from Monday. And then, so it was a total of a 3-week posting window. If I'm wrong on that, I'll get right back to you. I should have had that pulled up, but alas, I didn't. So that is the status of it, and I'm pulling it up right now. It's right here. Yep, October 30th, so 2 weeks for questions. And then responses are due on November 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's my report on the RFP for legal counsel.
All right. Are there any questions or anything on this item from the task force? Okay. Okay, pilot project considerations and goals discussion. So I see from the minutes of the October 12th meeting that there was a discussion on this item. I'm not quite sure where you left off in that, where you want to pick it back up. So Commissioner, what say you?
Last time I waited till the end, till everyone talked to chime in, and I'm gonna flip that this time. I've been thinking about this a lot, the pilot projects. I hear everything Mr. Whitaker saying. We had a great discussion at the last meeting about it. I'm hesitant to, well, let me just say that I've looked at the calendar. I've actually sat down with the calendar and looked at the remaining 10 weeks of the calendar year. And I don't believe we could get it done even if we tried. We have got so many pokers in the fire with the little RFP evaluation and trying to select a project manager, and the large RFPs, which we'll discuss in a minute. And now we're going to also have RFPs coming in for legal counsel. We're already at meeting number 19 in a short period of time. And I don't think we have the bandwidth to really pull this off. So I'm just going to say that I don't believe it's possible in the time we have left. Secondly, I have a discomfort that the more I stewed on this, the greater my discomfort became of doing something that could be perceived as an end run around the legislature. Now, I understand that not everyone has to have that consideration. You guys, most of you don't work for state government, so that's totally fine to overrule me on this. But my point is that if we're trying to hurry up and put a pilot project into play to obligate funds for the express purpose of not allowing the legislature to reallocate the money, we're sort of to me it's not the right thing to do, because that's their very purpose, is to allocate state fundings and state assets as they see is most important at any particular moment in time. And so my point is that if I were to endorse a plan that was a little bit of a poke in the eye to members of either the House or the Senate or anyone in state government, I think the repercussions for the Department of Public Safety would have much bigger ripple effects than just this project. So we have a lot of legislative initiatives that we have to advance in the coming session, and I'm unwilling to start from a position of being perceived as just trying to get one in under the wire so we can grab some money and prevent them from mucking around in this piece of this project. So I'm not in favor of trying to hustle pilot projects into existence before December 31st. And I totally understand if the other members of this task force do want to do that. No hard feelings. I just can't. I don't have the time to commit to making that happen between now and December 31st. And I don't have the will to burn political capital at this point.
I'm going to chime in here because I haven't had an opportunity, being absent from the last meeting. And I also don't support pilot projects being developed or identified by the end of the year. My reasons are a little bit different, though I may not understand all of the conversations that might be going on as far as what the legislative intent on things is. But here's my concern. We are about to hire, hopefully soon, subject matter experts who are going to help us develop viable models for moving public safety communications forward in Vermont. That is going to include technical and operational standards and all sorts of other things, including funding recommendations, governance recommendations, so on and so forth. Why would we do a pilot project before we know what the components of a successful project are? We don't know. We don't know. I think that as we get potential models developed through the work of the vendor, we will see probably consistent elements of a model plan come forward. You know, no matter which plan we pick in the end, it will have these things in common. And then maybe we can start talking about a pilot project that could meet, that would need to meet those recommendations, or whichever of those recommendations we decide to implement. So it kind of feels a little bit like building a house without a blueprint for me right now. So that's my 2 cents. Although I would like to add too, based on the minutes from October 12th, the general components that were talked about, you know, where to focus on one area of the state and what to do when choosing a location. I mean, generally speaking, I support all of those ideas when we do get to the pilot project point. I just don't think we're there yet. But open to hear other points of view. So I will be quiet now and open it up to the rest of the task force. Mike Dunges.
Awesome, thanks. So I don't think we should be rushing into anything. I do understand the money that has been allocated and reallocated and changed, and the getting projects done for this particular, and I'm sure Paul can speak to this a lot more than I can because he's been through it, and I'm just seeing the remnants of it. We need to do this correctly. I don't think rushing for the sake of losing those funds. Listen, if this is, I actually like the point, Jennifer, like if this is important to the state, they won't reallocate the funds. And if it isn't right now, then it's not. And then maybe you have to keep hosting dispatch for a while, and that might not be what your department wants to do, but that might be what you have to do, right? And so not rushing, but I don't think we should forego the continued conversation. I don't think we should rush it, but I don't think we should forego the continued conversation about how we can, and this has always kind of been my perspective, on how we can, for those RFP respondents and those, you know, the agency that we're going to work with, give them as much data as we can as to what areas will be the most successful from pilot, you know, from a pilot dispatch center could be. So I don't think we should slow our particular, you know, development of what areas may work and may not, but I don't know that we have to say, here are the 3 areas that we picked today. And again, I'm sorry if this is too long. It doesn't mean we can't say to that RFP respondent, you know, these are the areas that we want it to go. And we can make that decision before the end of the year if we happen to find ourselves in that position. But I don't think that target and that deadline has as much weight because, like Jennifer said, if that money has to go away, it has to go away. And I would like to not lose it, and I'd like to use it for this, but we have to look at the priorities of the state as well.
I'll chime in here now at this point. I support the idea of doing the pilot project somewhere at some point. I don't have enough information to know where that pilot project necessarily should be. I believe Rutland is probably a good choice. But what other parts of the state, you know, I have Springfield sitting here on the call with us today. Maybe they're a better location over there to do a pilot project. And I don't have the answers to those questions as of yet. And that's what this RFP is supposed to be helping me answer. We also have a governance issue. Who's going to manage this pilot project? Even if we said we wanted to do it in Rutland, is Rutland City going to step up? Is Department of Public Safety going to open the Rutland PSAP back up? I don't know the answers to those. We need to know who's going to govern the facility. And we can't get that done between now and the end of the year.
Okay.
So Barb, I
anyone
don't think
else?
I don't think there's necessarily an action item here. I think we just wanted to continue to keep this topic transparent and have the public conversations about it because it has become a, you know, a matter of importance to some folks.
So I'll just chime in. I don't disagree with any of that, but I think that you know, from my perspective in my business, perceiving the use of funds before the end of the year, before they're reallocated, is I never would have thought of that, because in about 2-3 weeks, I'm going to start getting purchase orders from all sorts of broadcast entities who need to use up their money by the end of the year. Otherwise, they lose it and they don't get to use it next year. So from my, I had not even begun to consider that the legislators would be so sensitive that they'd think that we were trying to make an end run. I mean, if the money's there and it needs to be used, that's just simply the way it is.
It doesn't have a shelf life, this money, Ron. It's what's allocated currently in the big bill from this past spring. And we are about to start expending money by signing contracts, or I would imagine that comes with some sort of money in the short term on 2 different contracts. So it's not, the money is not sitting there like my budget is, where at the end of the year you give it back if you don't use it. I don't perceive that's the case with this money. It is the $2 million is clearly there for this particular project, and the remaining 9 million of the initial 11 million, I don't believe is going anywhere. Although stranger things have happened, that legislative decisions have been made that move money around and not fund something. But I don't have a particular high level of fear that the money's going to get grabbed back. But I do think it is a consideration among the many that we've talked about in this discussion.
I think also we could have conversations that would mitigate that risk, right? Or somewhat mitigate that risk of having the money taken back just by providing the legislators with, updates on where we are, what the path forward looks like from our perspective, when we anticipate we might spend that money, and how, so that they would not think that we've been sitting here not doing anything for a few months, and they would maybe more clearly see the path forward. So maybe that would reduce that risk. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next?
Sure.
That takes us to new business.
Goodness.
Thank you very much. Yes, it does.
See how I got you covered?
You do. Thank you very much. Is there any new business?
Well, I wanted to ask the group, the next item on our agenda is to go into executive session to discuss the responses that we received to the big RFP. We have one that we have not distributed yet because there's a question as to whether or not it was received according to the rules for procurement. And the state is investigating that right now. I don't know the answer to it. I can't offer an opinion one way or another other than the vendor believes they submitted it according to the guidelines and well within time. The state did not receive it, although we have now found evidence that the file was rejected in the time that matches what they have said they did. So there's sort of a joint investigation into this about between ADS, the Attorney General's office, and Buildings and General Services, plus my procurement people. So we have 4 bids to consider. There is potentially a 5th, and I wanted to raise this issue to ask task force members if they're comfortable going into executive session, knowing that there might be a 5th that you haven't even seen yet. Now, I say that because I want everyone to just have their eyes wide open about it. We might have a 5th coming into the mix. I don't for 1 minute think we're getting through all 4 of these in the time we have allowed for this meeting today, because that's a lot of information in there. So it may mean nothing that there could be another one coming, and it does not disadvantage anyone because I don't think we're getting through everything today anyway. But I want the task force members to know this and determine if they are comfortable going into executive session under these circumstances.
I think my preference would be to wait. Do we know when the Attorney General's office, BGS, and whoever else is involved might have an answer?
Barb.
Soon.
Do they know the time sensitivities?
The classic state government answer, soon.
I think we were intending to go into executive session to really talk about first impressions, right? Of the responses received. That was my understanding. So I think it would be best to have all of them in front of us when we have that discussion. But that's my 2 cents based on what I know now.
Yeah, I guess I could go either way. I mean, I think if we're going to have any kind of discussion where we're comparing one proposal against another or looking at, if we're going to just pick one proposal and focus on it, and that's all we're going to do today, then I think we're fine to go into executive session and do that. If we're going to do any kind of comparisons whatsoever across the submissions, then I think we need to wait until we have all of them.
I would agree with that.
I agree with that.
Okay, so what's the preference? To focus on one or to wait?
I think that as a general sense of fairness to people who would not be included in executive session, I think we should wait. Because, you know, I know how people get all suspicious about what people do in executive session. So if they only knew how boring it was, but I think we should wait. That being said, I am aware that that will give us some time back today, but it's going to compel us to have to move hard next week. And it's, yeah. I think we should wait, and I think we should be prepared that that's going to create a pain point for some or all of us in the next 7 to 10 days.
Yep.
I
So
agree.
that I don't think there's any vote required here. I think that we just skip the next agenda item, which is executive session.
Okay. And also, we will skip the following agenda item, which is the potential vote regarding next steps.
Correct.
Okay. Which brings us to setting the next meeting date. Now, we do have a special meeting on the books for next Wednesday.
I believe that's correct.
And the intention of that special meeting was big RFP response reviews, correct?
And next steps
Exclusively.
on the little, both big
Both,
RFP
right.
and next steps on the little RFP.
I'm thinking we don't need to set a next meeting date then. We already have it.
Well, that's it. That was initially set as a special meeting, I believe. Wait, let me look. Callie's probably gonna have to keep me straight. Yeah, that's
Yes, it was.
set as a special meeting number 7. We could just make that our next regular meeting. And then if we have to have a special meeting on Thursday or Friday or something else, then we just call the ball when we're together on Wednesday.
That makes sense to me, to change it to a regular meeting and then figure out what we're doing next Wednesday. Any objections to that? Okay, all right.
No, so we have the meeting scheduled. If everybody's given it a thumbs up, we'll just have Callie change it from a special meeting. It hasn't been warned yet, so from a special meeting to a regular meeting.
Right.
How efficient.
Try to be.
Okay. Anything else for today?
I have a question. Do we think that the attorneys will get back to us in a timely enough fashion?
I'm gonna press today. I pressed yesterday late afternoon pretty hard, and let's leave it at that. I will circle back today and make sure that I reinforce the urgent nature of their decision.
Okay. I think then that we are at the point where we can adjourn. If there's nothing else.
I will make that motion to adjourn.
I will second that
I'll
motion.
second it.
Oh, I look like, let's triple it. Let's quadruple it.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand or say aye and say aye. I see all
Aye.
hands of task force members raised or voices heard. We are adjourned till next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Great
Okay.
weekend.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.